All right, everybody. Hope you're having a good start to your Monday. Hope it's starting to feel like Christmas for a lot of people. It's definitely getting colder, and hopefully listening to some Christmas music now and everything. I really hope you guys enjoy the thumbnails I leave on the videos each week. I spend probably way too much time trying to perfect the best thumbnail that I can think of for the week. So yeah, just a lot of goofing off there. But anyways, we are on Unit 29. So we have moved on to, excuse me, that is incorrect. We are on Unit 28. Sorry, we are in Unit 28. Unit 28, Session 1. So Unit 28, Session 1. And we are digging into the book of Acts all through Unit 28. And so our text is Acts 2, verses 1 through 4, and verses 22 through 24, and verses 36 through 47. Sorry, I might click off a couple times on this video just because my notes are on the computer on another tab. But so we're talking about the coming of the Holy Spirit this week. We know that Acts chapter 2 is it's the day of Pentecost. That's where we see the Holy Spirit come down and thousands get saved. And Peter, that very same vessel that was afraid to even acknowledge that he knew Jesus not too long ago. If you remember when Jesus was on the way to be crucified, he denied Jesus 3 times. But now Peter is going to preach with boldness, and we're going to see thousands of people get saved. There's a lot to be said about this passage. I'm probably doing it an injustice since we're covering so much in 1 week, but that's how our curriculum is laid out. So there's stuff to be said about the gift of tongues in this passage. There's stuff to be said about the theological significance of Peter preaching about the crucifixion, what the crucifixion really was, Jesus' purpose here on the earth. But I just want to talk about, if we can focus it down to one thing, I'm going to talk about the significance of the Holy Spirit. So 3 things that are significant about the coming of the Holy Spirit that we see from this passage. Number 1, we see the coming of the Holy Spirit provides us power. Okay, the coming of the Holy Spirit provides power. If you notice, in this moment when the Spirit comes down, they all begin to speak in different tongues of different languages, something that they cannot do on their own ability. They're able to understand each other. Other people are able to understand them. It's not confusion. It's not babbling that makes no sense. It is a language they could not naturally speak that they did speak in that moment, so that all peoples would be able to hear them and know what they'd be able to say in this moment. And so really interesting passage there. But when we're talking about this last week, if you remember, I asked the question of, are we serving like through the power of the Holy Spirit? And a lot of times we don't acknowledge the Spirit is powerful. We don't acknowledge the fact that without the Holy Spirit, we can do nothing to serve Christ. And when the Holy Spirit came down, it provided this power, not just the gift of tongues that is pretty rare, but I mean, it does exist, but in this context, it's a little different. But it provides all these gifts of the Spirit: the teaching ability, the preaching ability, the gift of hospitality, the gift of prophecy, the gift of mercy, all these different things that the Holy Spirit provides. And so the Holy Spirit does provide us power. That's the first thing I noticed about this. Secondly, the coming of the Spirit fulfills prophecy. Okay, the coming of the Spirit fulfills prophecy. This is a very significant thing. You can brush over some of this stuff, but don't brush over this. This is very important. In the book of Joel in the Old Testament, chapter 2, verses 28 through 32, there was a prophecy that was basically going to be the deliverance of a people, right? But it wasn't like we think, not like a lot of the Jews thought. It was the coming of the Holy Spirit. It was the arrival of something new, and this is the same thing we all have. We all have the Holy Spirit, right? And so this fulfills prophecy. This prophecy was spoken hundreds of years before the day of Pentecost here, after Jesus had ascended into heaven, and in this time, and it was something that we can look back at and say, this Holy Spirit, this gift that we've been given was promised hundreds of years before. Jesus said it himself while he was on earth. He said, I must go away, but don't worry, I will send a helper. And he even said that would be a greater advantage to them than to have him there personally. Reason being is that they followed Jesus around and saw his ministry that he did for years. Now that Holy Spirit lives inside all of them. And that's the way the gospel kingdom advances all throughout history. And then finally, the coming of the Spirit is a personal gift to every believer, right? So this happens at conversion, okay? Us as what we believe as Christians is that the Holy Spirit and conversion, they're simultaneous acts. So when we get saved, in that moment, the Holy Spirit becomes a present and a very personal thing to us. There's some denominations that don't necessarily believe that. They believe in what they would call a second baptism or a baptism of the Holy Spirit. We believe those things happen simultaneously because as God saves, he also gives us the Holy Spirit. He gives us the power to go out and serve. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Please remember on your notes, the dates were wrong on the originals, but on each hard copy that was passed out, the date should be marked off to where those are correct now. But if you're looking at the PDF version, okay, just remember if the first date on there will say December 6th, that's wrong. It's December 13th. We are starting with the first lesson. So don't let that confuse you. If you've got any questions, just let me know. All right. Thank you guys. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you Sunday.